Okay, so I'm back. Uh, the purpose of this hangout is to get some of the core concepts that are related, involved in core value alignment out in video form so that I could eventually transcribe it for those parts of the book in simpler form. So today's topic is how to put your goals on autopilot. The mechanism for doing that is an old trick called implementation intentions. So with an implementation intention, what you do is you, once you have your goal, and that's the separate step we'll talk about later, once you have your goal, you visualize the path to the goal, and some people do it better backwards with a reverse calendar. We'll talk about that also on another recording. But with implementation intentions, the best way to think about it is that your subconscious mind, which activates your mindless habits, is most effective if you use what's called if-then reasoning. So if I see a blue car, I will hop in the car and take off because my goal is to purchase a blue car. And that's kind of a boring example. You think of a good one. The ones that I've used mainly are when writing a series I did a few months ago, Death of Writer's Block. I managed to get like 35,000 words knocked out over the course of January, February, March. And the technique was when I wake up in the morning and I put the anchor there and my feet touch the ground, I will get up and do nothing else, come in here and write. So every morning, 6 o'clock, feet hit the ground, hit the office and get to typing. And the beauty of implementation intentions in that way, and that one's called task-based, is that it's so simple that your brain is able to run those scripts like that. That's how you program for what's called automaticity, which is autopilot. It becomes a habit. You want to rehearse it also so that you can make sure that you activate those memories. And you want to make sure that your goals are relevant, because if the goals are irrelevant, you derail yourself. That's why one of the first steps in core value alignment is values elicitation. So that's another video. So let me go back through with a couple more details. I'm trying to keep it as simple as possible, but as useful as possible. It's possible to over-motivate yourself, and your brain actually works on a principle where it wants a certain amount of background noise. That's why sometimes if you put on a little bit of white noise, a little bit of music, you're able to concentrate better than dead silence. So in cases where it's something you want to do and you're already motivated to do it, if you put implementation intentions that are task-based, you can over-motivate yourself. What you want to do in that case is do the other side, which is distraction-based implementation intentions. Like if I'm on my way to get something done, let me think of a good example. If I'm on my way to the gym, I can put an implementation intention that says, when I see McDonald's, I will turn my head and keep driving. And so by reminding yourself of your core values, aligning your goals such that they get you to your core values, and planting implementation intentions, either task, which are the goal-directed ones, or distraction, which are to prevent you from steering off the path. Between those two types of implementation intentions, you will be able to more effectively have extra cognitive energy because you've basically delegated those processes to the environment so that the triggers in the environment actually run the scripts that you don't have to remember. So some other details, and this is kind of going a little bit deeper. Goal intentions are different from implementation intentions because implementation intentions are like if and when. So they have to do with a condition, an anticipated condition on the way to goal completion, and possible opportunities. The way it works is it increases your the accessibility, and by accessibility they mean it puts it like tip of tongue, tip of mind type of thing. Now, the difference with goal intentions are that goal intentions involve saying you want to accomplish a specific thing. You want to make sure that your goals tend to be useful and aligned with your core values. Or what happens is when you accomplish things in a way that goes against your core values, you chip away at your self-esteem, your sense of self-worth, because your brain subconsciously knows the things you want to accomplish, but so meanwhile you're doing these other things that are against it, and it kind of makes you generally distrust your own guidance, your own tendencies. So goal intentions, what else? So one last element, and might as well get it all in there, and I'll probably chop this up later, might not. So I think those are some meetings that I'm supposed to be in, so I need to hurry. So undigressing, goal intentions, as I mentioned, are the specific goal you want to reach. Now, the mistake that leads to addiction and lots of stress is what's called sign tracking instead of goal tracking. And goal tracking, they really want to meet. Hold on one second. Okay, that's Peter. I'm looking forward to that meeting. Peter and Chris Fogelman, Dr. Fogelman. But wrapping up, so sign tracking versus goal tracking. If you are sign tracking, you tend to go for the trigger. Like the example in the lab is that you have a mouse with a bar that he's supposed to press on. So every time to get a pellet, the reward. But every time you show the mouse the bar, the mouse runs over and he goes over to where the pellet thing is. Now, if you condition the mouse where you're not using the pellet thing anymore, but you're using, say, a light, you shine a light in a spot on the ground, and then you provide the pellet, you'll get a certain population of the mice that go over to where the light is instead of where the pellets are, and that's called sign tracking, whereas the other mice will head over to where the goal is. Now, where this becomes bad is in conditions of scarcity, where there's a bunch of mice, a little bit of food. By the time the mice that head over to the sign, do the sign tracking, look over to the actual goal, Darwin. So it's usually, in conditions of scarcity, it's all used up. And that's reproductively not good. And another example of conditions of scarcity are conditions of fear, conditions of threat, and conditions of low energy. All those things are cases in which you would want the fastest path to food, to safety, and not to the sign. And so that's sort of the mechanism of addiction, that the sign keeps showing up, is no longer related to the goal, but I think they call it sign salience or incentive salience. So in incentive salience, the sign of the reward becomes even more rewarding than the outcome. You kind of forget what the outcome was that you were after. An example of this would be folks who, like, they show them a sign up of like an alcohol advertisement, or they show them, well, drug use does this a lot, where they show you paraphernalia, and the person, they already start heading to the high, and it's really hard for them to de-escalate, and it gets really bad cravings. Yep. So I think that's enough concepts in one bite. One of the next things I want to cover is the mechanisms of addiction and habit, and I'm putting that in here so that this is one of the ways I actually get things done. I put social, like, commitments that would be awkward and embarrassing to not finish, but you make sure they're reachable. So one thing I want to get done before next week is to discuss the role of dopamine and cortisol in addiction and habit. And the reason for that is that those are the two mechanisms, wanting something and then just being anxious until you get it, that drive addiction behavior, habit behavior. And once you master that, you get much better at de-escalating certain habits that trigger you. So hopefully this is helpful. Feel free to put comments on the bottom. Dr. Manny Cyanide, I'm out.